Hey, it's Mark here. If you followed me on my Facebook page, and I know that there are at least two, maybe three of you who do, you'll notice that I every once in a while will post a book review. Well, now that I've retired, I've decided I think it would be a little more fun to do those on video instead of just a short written blurb. There's not, people aren't going to read really long ones, and the short ones don't do the book much justice. So I decided to start doing them on little videos. And hopefully if you like these, you'll share them or watch them, give me a little bit of give me a thumbs up if you like it, and we'll just see how these go. But I read a lot of books, and so I've decided to just start sharing these on video. So the first book that I'm going to review is a book called The Education of an Idealist by Samantha Power. Education of an Idealist by Samantha Power. Now, who's Samantha Power? If you're pay attention to politics at all, you know who Samantha Power is. She was born in London, England in 1970 to parents who were Irish doctors. Her dad actually was a dentist. Her mother was a doctor. And she grew up in Dublin. While in Dublin, her father, who was an alcoholic, would take her to a local pub all the time. One of the kind of clever stories in the book was when he would take her to the pub, he was there so often, he had a particular seat at the corner of the bar that they called the seat of power, which I thought was clever. She tells some good stories in the book about growing up there and going to the pub with her father, and she loved her dad, despite the fact that he was clearly a flawed individual. Her mother ends up having a problem with his alcoholism over time, and she ends up divorcing him. Ultimately, she moves when Samantha is an adolescent to the United States. They move to Pittsburgh. She's there for a while. Then they end up moving to Atlanta. After she graduates high school, Samantha ends up going to Yale. She also, after Yale, she becomes a reporter in Bosnia, covering the Bosnian War. And this is obviously a very formative point of her life. The title of the book is The Education of an Idealist. And she is idealistic, that's for sure. That idealism is put to the test, though, in a war zone, and she begins to, as part of the title of the book, The Education of an Idealist, she has to start juxtaposing her idealism versus what people could do to each other in reality, which isn't always so pleasant. So she covers the Bosnian War. At some point after that, she has to decide what she's going to do with her life. She goes on to Harvard Law School. After she graduates Harvard Law School, she starts with a position, or she has a position with the Obama Senate office. She's not really a staffer. She's kind of a independent contractor. She does that for a while, and she then ends up working on his presidential campaign. After he's elected president, she goes to work for him in the White House. Ultimately, and this gets to the back half of the book, she becomes, and this is her most important contribution, she becomes the ambassador to the United Nations. It's an interesting book. I think you'll enjoy reading it. She is definitely politically to the left. One of the reasons that I read the book was I knew about her. I had followed her career when she was at the United Nations. I don't agree with almost any position that she takes. Although having read the book, I can tell you it would be really fascinating to have lunch with somebody like Samantha Power. She seems like a very intelligent person, highly qualified, loves her kids, loves her husband, seems to love America. We just disagree fundamentally on a lot of things. Throughout the book, she talks a lot about LGBTQ issues. She, heavily laments when Donald Trump is elected, talks about how much damage is going to happen taking us out of the Paris Climate Accords. Although she never says anything about the fundamental aspects of the Paris Climate Accords, which I don't like. She's also, because she's an immigrant, she's also extremely pro-immigrant. She looks at everything, apparently through the book, it seems that through the lens of people just want to move here to improve their life. They're all good people. There's nothing that's negative to the country from immigrants coming in. She doesn't spend any time in these kind of circumstances talking about the opponent's position. She just paints Republicans or conservatives as heartless, bad people. And I think that's a mistake. Honestly, if you look at what happened after Trump got elected, there were many things policy-wise that the economy was good. He did certain things on immigration. He pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accords. the ability to quantify what she considers super negative aspects of things that conservatives want to do. She never really goes into those. She just says things that are virtuous and just lets it like that it's self-evident that this is the best way to go. And I'm always suspicious of people that just say, this is my side and that's the way it is because I'm a good person. She's aware of that, which I give her a big thumbs up for. She even talks about in the book that there are times in meetings where President Obama himself would call her out for being self-righteous and sanctimonious, which if you read the book, that's true. She does have that problem. But I give her points that she recognizes that and even writes about it and says that she was called out in meetings for that. So good for her that she is aware of that. It's a pretty good book. I'll talk about this as I do these. She has what I call a good literary cadence. When she writes, it's in a modern type of cadence, so it's real easy to read. This is not a small book. It's 554 pages. It does take a while to get through, but she writes in a manner that's super easy to get through. It's not like reading Moby Dick or Tale of Two Cities or Crime and Punishment, something that's just like brutal, stirring concrete with your eyelids. This moves very quickly because it's written in modern style that you're used to. So if you want to learn about somebody that if you're conservative, you disagree with, if you're liberal, you're going to love it. It's a good book. It's interesting. Like I said, I think it'd be interesting to have dinner with Samantha Power. She seems like a very pleasant person and a smart person. I disagree with her fundamentally on policy, on some very major policy issues, but I do think she cares. Obviously, she cares about the country and she cares about people in general. There are a lot of activities she did as the United Nations ambassador where she worked very hard to help stop the spread of Ebola in Africa at the time. She worked hard on other issues that were important, the difficulties in Syria, the war in Syria. And so she has done good, but there are a lot of things about her that I disagree with. So if you want to read this, it's Education of an Idealist by Samantha Power. Pick it up, and I think you'll enjoy it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.